Merry Christmas, Blue Jays fans. This episode coming to you on Christmas Eve. We're recording this the night before, so Merry Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday season. But we really do have some things to talk about. What is the Blue Jays plan A? What's the Blue Jays plan B and C? And so on. Where does this place everybody in the Blue Jays game plan for 2026?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. As always, I'm Brayden Iwasko. He's Carter First. Thank you for joining us on this Christmas Eve day. Very excited to be with you. Lots to talk about, lots to get into. But yeah, wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. It's been a crazy year for not only us, but Blue Jays fans in general with the season that was, and a lot to look forward to in 2026. So everybody, happy holidays. Carter, I know you're going out and spending some time with the family, so hopefully you have a Merry Christmas as well.
Yeah, it's perfect time of the year. Like one of my favorite times of the year, obviously. Excuse to go see the family, which we don't do it enough, obviously. I hope you guys get to see your family a little bit more than I do, but it's always nice to have a reason to get back together. The holiday season presents, the gift giving, seeing some of the reactions that your family members do have. It's one of the best times of the year. So unfortunately, we're not really going over a wish list for this Christmas Eve episode. We're actually kind of going over the opposite. If you're on the naughty list, maybe you got some coal in your stocking, and that's kind of what we're going to be going over on this episode. Is not the ideals. It's the backup plans. It's the secondary options. It's not what we're looking for, because if you ask us, we'll just flat out say we want Kyle Tucker or Bichette. And in this episode, we're really going to be talking about if that does not happen. I think we kind of both talked about it, and we both said I think it's more likely that they get both rather than none, or at least one of them rather than none. Both and none are probably very similar on our boards. We're thinking that's Kyle Tucker or Bichette. It'd be a Christmas miracle if you get both, and it'd be a Christmas nightmare if you don't get either of them. But I kind of want to start this episode off by saying we're going to talk about Plan Bs, but I really don't think there is a Plan B for the Toronto Blue Jays. If you don't get Kyle Tucker, Bichette, and I'll throw Alex Bregman into this discussion as well. I think he's a similar caliber of player. I don't think he's as good, but I think it's still in the same similar tier. That if you do get Alex Bregman, I wouldn't love it, but I would be okay with it. And it would be something that at least would be the best option to replace a Bichette not being back with the Toronto Blue Jays in 2026. But it's really all out on these three players. If you don't go out and get one of these three guys, especially with losing Bichette, because Bichette right now is a free agent, that was a guy that was on this 2025 World Series roster. If you don't go out and get a similar caliber of player, you are making this offense worse. You are getting worse as a baseball team. It doesn't matter who else you can go get. Maybe you get three other guys. This team needs an impact bat. They need that middle of the order, top of the order bat. If you don't go out and get any of those three guys, I think, especially with all the sentiment that we've been hearing, with the aggressiveness, with the Toronto Blue Jays wanting to add to this team, if you don't go out and do that, just that, and add to this team and add that superstar caliber of player, you're letting every single Toronto Blue Jays fan down in this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an absolute travesty if that happens. We'd be sitting on here at this point, in a couple weeks whenever we see what's finalized, and we'd be upset, when we be grading this offseason. Maybe it definitely wouldn't be where we thought it was going to be. But Carter, I want to start the conversation here. And this goes back to the Bichette and the Kyle Tucker conversations that me and you have been having. Number one, Plan A for me, what I think this organization is looking at, Plan A is Kyle Tucker. Plan B is Bichette. And, so it's weird to say that we're going to talk Plan B, because I realistically think that is their Plan A, Plan B situation, and maybe Bregman is their Plan C. So maybe we're actually talking about a Plan D and E option here. And I guess when I start the conversation there, what are your thoughts and feelings on that specifically? Is maybe Plan A isn't both of them. Maybe Plan A is Tucker and Plan B is Bichette. How do you feel about that?
I think that's probably the more realistic take on this situation, because we've always said that It's very unlikely to get both of them. Is it a possibility? Yes. Would we be all in on that? Absolutely. How could you not love Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman? If you want to get somehow all three of them, I would love that even more. I'm not going to say no to any of those players. But we got to think about it realistically. You got to think about it logically. If they get 2 out of 3, I think that's even very unrealistic. So I think from everything we've seen, Kyle Tucker has to be the one. Kyle Tucker's the best player on the free agent market. That is going to be the singular guy. That makes your team it increases this team's value and just increases this team's skill level to the greatest amount that it possibly could if you're only signing one player. Then Bo Bichette, if you're looking at these 3 guys specifically, Bregman being the 3rd guy, I have Bo Bichette right in the middle. I do have him as that plan B option as well. I think he's a slightly worse option than Kyle Tucker, just not as polished in his all-around game, but we know how good Bo Bichette is. And at that point, you're not really adding or subtracting because you're just having Bo Bichette come back to a roster that already had him for the last 7 seasons. But that is where it starts. It's a big ad, in a sense, ad. It's not, again, not in the grand scheme of things, but it is when you're looking at the 2025 to 2026 free agency. So I do have Bo Bichette as that number 2 option as well. And then you have Alex Bregman, which maybe fits what the Toronto Blue Jays identity is a little bit more than Bo Bichette with the defense, with kind of the more all-around baseball player. I really think this team is looking for offense. I think this team right now is, in this next signing, is looking for that offensive potential, is looking for that high upside player. And while Bregman is a very good baseball player, I think he kind of just is the guy that we've seen over the last 5 years. He's going to be about a 1-20 weighted runs created plus guy, going to be a 3-4 WAR guy, provide you that Gold Glove caliber defense, play a very good third base, and be a leader, which is definitely cannot be understated, especially in a clubhouse like the Toronto Blue Jays. After these 3 superstars, you got a pretty big drop off. After that, you're probably looking at Cody Bellinger as being the next big name free agent, maybe an Eugenio Suarez. But I think Bellinger, with what the Toronto Blue Jays are trying to do, does make more sense. But we've heard rumors, and you probably, like a lot of you guys listening have probably heard this article, that there is rumors that Cody Bellinger is asking for an 8-year, $400 million deal, which there's no chance in hell this guy's worth. But this has kind of already been talked off the ledge. This report comes from MLB reporter Barry M. Bloom of Forbes, and he did report that, but then he did kind of walk the take back and said, Scott Boras said my report about Bellinger asking for $400 million was nonsense, but he did not, or he did fail to give him a replacement figure. So you got to believe that with Scott Boras, just with traditionally how Scott Boras does do business, he's going to try to get the most amount of money possible. So Cody Bellinger probably looking for a longer term deal, maybe not $400 million, but it's going to be a lot of money to fork over for a player that definitely is a good baseball player and then will make a difference, but not necessarily that game-changing bat that the Toronto Blue Jays do need. So I think you're really striking out if you're not getting, your plan A, plan B, or plan C being Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, and Alex Bregman. Yes, there is things that you could do, but it would be a huge swing and a miss for the Toronto Blue Jays front office, and then just the ideals from the fan base. It'd be hard to get people excited about what the Blue Jays did this offseason, even though they've made some good signings, if you don't land one of those 3 big fish.
No, you're absolutely right. There realistically is no, I guess if we're going like this, there is no plan D, but in the grand scheme of things, there is no backup plan here. And I don't think there can be. There's nobody that's going to come in and, for one, replace what Bo Bichette did, and if not even that, add more to what the Bo Bichette brought to this team. And then imagine, this organization striking out on all 3 of those guys. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. Sorry, boys, you're out. That's pretty much what this is, because, are you going to go and overpay Bellinger to come there? I doubt it. I don't know that Bellinger is the type of player that the Blue Jays would be looking to acquire. And then where do you go after that? Right? I mean, yes, there are guys, but there aren't those impact players, those impact guys, because otherwise, which we'll talk about in the next segment, maybe you look internally. So, Carter, I think in saying all of that, let's take a break. We're going to continue this conversation a little bit, but look in-house a little bit as well and see if all of these things don't work, what would this team look like? And I know it's a scary thought to put in everybody's head, but in a season where everything comes down to free agency and player decisions, it's something that we're going to have to pay attention to. So hold on, we'll be right back after this break. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I love FanDuel. I talk about it all the time. I went 2 for 3 in my NFL picks on this past weekend. not bad. Could be better, for sure. Would have been nice to, roll all three of those into a parlay. But I'm telling you, NFL Sundays moves fast. One big play. Suddenly everything feels different. That's exactly what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. That's one of my favorite things. I had Juwan Jennings, and he did nothing throughout the first half of the football game. And so I was like, you know what? I'm betting his overs in the second half. Sure enough, everything hit, and I won a bunch of money. So I absolutely love that. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Today's episode is brought to you by Doer. It's Christmas time. It's the holiday season, and you know what? I'm always struggling to find out what to wear. I think I have 3 or 4 of the same blue sweaters, and that's my go-to. And so I figured, you know what, I got to update my wardrobe a little bit, and sure enough, I have my Doers. I'm wearing them to, we got a Christmas dinner tomorrow, or tonight, I guess it would be, and so I'm wearing them. They look the best, they feel the best. It's still comfortable. It sort of gives you the feeling like you're lounging around, but you're still wearing jeans. You still get that jeans look, the jeans feel. And so that's the best part about the Doers, to be honest. It's lifestyle apparel engineered for movement and versatility. It's time for you to experience the comfort of Doer. I know you'll love these. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. You can check out the store in Toronto, in person, 44 Ossington Ave, and you can mention our promo code LOCKEDONTORONTO in store to get 15% off. But you can also check them out online, duer.ca/LockedOnToronto. For 15% off. That's doer.ca/LockedOnToronto. So, Carter, I want to start it here, and then obviously we're going to circle everything back to the overhanging conversation. But let's just put it out there. Say this team gets neither Tucker, Bichette, or Bregman. And personally, at this point, I don't know. Maybe they go for a Cody Bellinger if they end up striking out on all 3 of those guys. But say that's it. What is left in-house, right? That's got to be the question you look at. You got your Barger, you got your Clements, you got your Davis Schneiders, you got guys like Joey Loperfidos, your Miles Straws, your Nathan Lucases. Carter, I guess, and this is going to be a hard question to answer after we just talked about 3 of the biggest superstars in free agency. How would you feel about having to roll those guys out every day?
It's not that I wouldn't feel good about rolling those guys out. It's just, can they make up for the lost Bichette production? And that's a lot of pressure to put on a lot of these players, whether it's Daulton Varsho, Addison, Barger, Ernie, Clement, Nathan Lucas, any of those guys. Even if you want to throw more emphasis on the guys like Santander, Alejandro, Kirk, guys that, again, have had good seasons and can be productive for you, but haven't been the most consistent hitters throughout their entire careers. And again, I expect a huge Santander bounce back. But for a guy like Alejandro Kirk, is he more of the 2025 Alejandro Kirk, or not 2022 Alejandro Kirk, or is he more like the 2023 and 2024, where it's not going when it's not going well, it's a rollover in the infield, and we know exactly what happens with Alejandro Kirk. It's the ball on the ground in the infield. He's not running out any infield singles. So you do have a lot of volatility. So it's like, I have a lot of faith that Addison Barger is going to continue to produce, and he's going to prosper into a great baseball player, and he's going to be a very important part of the Toronto Blue Jays' success. But to expect them to have the type of production that Bichette would have had throughout this lineup is honestly just, you're setting your expectations way too high, and you're setting yourself up for failure. So I think there is in-house options that if you platoon them, maybe they can get relatively close. I don't even want to say close, to be honest, because it's Bichette, and we know how important Bichette is to this team. So I don't really think that there's a lot of in-house options that you just expect to roll out next year and have the same level of production that Bichette did have in Toronto.
And you know what? You brought up Santander, so I'm going to talk about him a little bit here because he is pretty much a free agent addition. Because last season, I'm not going to sit here and lie to anybody, did absolutely nothing. And a guy that I wanted drastically to come here. I was the guy preaching the Anthony Santander to the Blue Jays. I think it can go very well. Having a full year of healthy Santander probably hits, if not 28, 30 home runs a year. That's the guy you want, and that's a great addition. But Carter, you're 100% right. can Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, Davis Schneider, Joey Loperfido, Nathan Lucas, Miles Straw put up the numbers that Bo Bichette can do? Not any one of them by themselves, and I don't even know if you have a combination of three people, can they put up the numbers that Bo Bichette can do? And maybe they get close. Maybe Addison Barger continues to progress and maybe gets the home run power there, or has the home run power. Maybe that you can see a little bit of. But overall, I just don't know. And so my next question, I guess, for you is, where do you play all these guys, right? So is Ernie Clement your everyday second baseman, Addison Barger your everyday third baseman, and then you throw Nathan Lucas, Schneider, Loperfido, Straw as a platooning outfield? Is that your thoughts here?
You probably just roll out Ernie as a second base. Maybe you don't even switch up what Andres Gimenez was doing with how good of Ernie Clement plays shortstop and that being his natural position. Maybe you leave Andres at second base, have Ernie at short, then you got Addison Barger at third base. Like, if you're not getting one of these players, you're leaving a big hole in the infield, which isn't necessarily like a bad thing because Ernie Clement's good defensively, Addison Barger has a cannon, and then we know how good Andres Gimenez is. But it just leaves a lot of open space for guys that we did have in platoon roles. So, like, for Bo Bichette, you roll him out against lefties, you roll him out against righties, and you don't lose any sleep at night whatsoever. Well, like, with a lack of signing with one of these big superstars, all that means is that you're putting guys in tougher positions. As in, Barger's going to have more at-bats against lefties. Ernie Clement's going to have to be in there consistently against righties. Daulton Varsho isn't a guy, like, again, you're going to have him in every single game anyway, but he's not a guy that you're expecting necessarily to produce against lefties. So for the guys that were in platoon positions, you're asking them to do a whole lot more when they already did a whole lot more in 2025 than they've really done predominantly, like, as the median throughout their careers. On, like, a lot of these guys had career years in positions where they did have a lot more leeway and had a lot more opportunity. But if you're increasing that opportunity and expecting them to go against, MLB's best day in and day out, it's just a lot of expectation to have. And you're just kind of setting them up for failure in a sense here as well. And just looking at, like, the numbers that these three, I'm going to include Tucker and Bregman in here as well, just in terms of weighted runs created plus. Like, you have Bo Bichette over the last 5 years, a 116. If you take out 2024, which we know that kind of is an outlier for Bo Bichette, it goes up to a 127. Kyle Tucker is at a 146 on average over the last 5 seasons, which is absolutely unbelievable. And Alex Bregman is at a 124 in his own regard. So the only guy that really, or guys, I guess I'll say, that really even come close to replacing that level of production is a guy like Cody Bellinger, who has a 123 weighted runs created plus over the last 3 years. But if you include 21 and 22, which I'm not saying Cody Bellinger is that type of player, because I think he is a lot better than how he was in 21 and 22, it goes down to a 99.6 over 5 years, and 100 is the league average. So if you're going to sign a massive contract to Cody Bellinger, who again is a good defender, you can play him at any corner outfield spot, has hit lefties better than righties for some reason as a left-handed hitter in the 2 of the last 3 seasons. Throughout his career, he is better against righties predominantly, but again, that's just a tough expectation if you're asking Cody Bellinger to replicate what Bo Bichette did. And then if you're doing that with an in-house resolution, and you're expecting some of those guys to replicate that 127 weighted runs created plus, it's just not going to happen. That's just simply where we're at. And then the other guy that I was going to throw into this is Eugenio Suarez, but he's kind of on the Anthony Santander train, where he just had a career year, 49 home runs, 118 RBIs. Yes, he could be a good player for you, not a very good defender like Anthony Santander, but is it a fair expectation to expect him to have that career year once again? It's if you don't go out and get one of these 3 top players and replace what Bo Bichette can do with one of those superstars, you're just going to simply get worse offensively. And that's not something that this team wants to do, especially getting as close as they did to a World Series in the previous year. This is one question you can respond to kind of, I unloaded a bunch there, but I also wanted to bring this up as well. So we kind of talked about this in a plan A, plan B, plan C. If the Blue Jays don't get their plan A and Kyle Tucker does sign with another team, say it's the Dodgers, say it's the Phillies, whatever it ends up being, does Bo Bichette get more money from the Toronto Blue Jays? Because at that point, right now, the Toronto Blue Jays have leverage. They could go get Tucker, they could go get Bo, they could go get Bregman, they can make a trade, whatever you want to do. But as the offseason progresses, some of these superstars are going to go off the market. And whether the Toronto Blue Jays are first again, that's awesome. But if they're not, they start to lose some of that leverage, because every other fan base and every other team should know the Toronto Blue Jays, if they don't add one of those 3 guys, they're going to get worse. And that's not what you want to do when you're in a win-now state. So do you think that Bo Bichette gains some leverage and then he becomes an even higher priority if, like, Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman go off the board? Or do you think that with the way the market's going, like it might not necessarily matter if Kyle Tucker or Bregman, all the superstars go off the board as well?
It's a tough question. No, it absolutely gives Bo Bichette a little bit more leverage. But is it enough to push this contract above and beyond? Probably not. The Blue Jays really do seem to have game plans when they go into off seasons about how much they're willing to pay certain guys, what these guys are worth. Are they overvaluing themselves? They're very good at that. To be honest with you, Carter, the bigger question to me is how much more important does Tucker become? Because I think more so than the other way around, I could see Bo Bichette going first. I think I could see him getting to a point where he's sick of waiting around. If Tucker's taking a while and the Blue Jays are willing to wait that out, Bo Bichette's going to have to make a decision. And Tucker is the big name. Right? So there will be teams that are wanting to go for him and wait for him, and there'll be other teams that maybe pull out of that race because they're like, hey, I can't wait this long and watch all these guys go off of the board. So does it give Bo Bichette leverage if Tucker goes? 100%. 100%. And I think that makes Bo Bichette absolutely then plan A for the Blue Jays, or I think they're plan B of Tucker. And they will go out and really heavily pursue Bo Bichette to bring him back. And I said right from, I don't know when we talked about this last time, it could have been last offseason for goodness sakes, or I think it was right after Vlad signed it, is I think Bo Bichette will be a Toronto Blue Jay again. I've said that right from day one, and I will continue to say that. I don't think, I really in my head can't see him going anywhere else. But eventually push does get to shove here, and guys have to make decisions. So either way, whether it's Bo Bichette going off the market and Alex Bregman going off the market or Kyle Tucker going off the market, it's going to help every other free agent because that's one less option teams now have to go and get a very high impact bat. And realistically, there are three major impact bats, and those are the three. Now, Cody Bellinger, Eugenio Suarez, sure, whatever. They're in the conversation, but I think there is an elite tier, and then there's a little bit below that, and that's where those two guys are. So I think these three guys to an offseason is drastically important to each other's success in contract negotiations.
And if we're looking at team needs as well for the Toronto Blue Jays, like the middle infielder is a very big need for the Toronto Blue Jays. If like you can roll out Ernie Clement, you can roll out Addison Barger. Sure. You can feel okay about that. And I think that is better than some of the free agent options that you would have if you do miss out on Bo Bichette and Bregman. Just looking at the infielders, like, again, you have Eugenio Suarez, but after that, it's like Juan Moncada, it's Kike Hernandez, who barely played with the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's Paul DeYoung is on here. You got IKF, Jorge Mateo. Like, it's not guys that are turning the page or moving the needle for me at all. Like, Willie Castro's another guy that maybe fits the Toronto Blue Jays mold where you could kind of put anywhere, but would you not just want to roll out Ernie Clement at that point? And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that if you are going to miss out on these three players, I think you might as well just go in-house, because I think the in-house options are probably better for you than the free agent market would be at that point. So I think that if Kyle Tucker goes off the board, again, whatever order it ends up being, I think the Toronto Blue Jays lose a ton of leverage, and I do think they start to panic a little bit, because I think they know as well that they need to try to replicate the production that they did get from Bo Bichette. Their offense was their identity. It was a top 5 offense in the sport. If you lose Bo Bichette, you're probably not going to be a top 5 offense once again, and you're not going to get that production from anyone on this team, at least singularly in-house. So I think that as soon as one guy goes off the market, I think the Blue Jays lose a ton of leverage if they're not the first team to go out and get one of those guys. And then I think that they will go all in, whether it's on Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, or Alex Bregman. If they're not already all in on Kyle Tucker, it kind of seems like they are at this point anyway. But they need to land one of these guys if they want to get back to being a contending team once again in 2026. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, no, it really is. This is it, right? This is going to, I hate to say this, but make or break your season, right? If you're going to bring in a guy that can hit around Vladdy and in the 2 or 4 spot, depending on, which guy you decide to go with, I guess. But I'm going to ask you a big question when we come back. We're going to take a short break, and we'll do that right after this. So, Carter, if you have to put a timeline on all of this, right? Me and you just had a conversation, I think it was off camera just before we did the episode, on when the Blue Jays or one of these guys make a decision. And I'll specifically look at 2 players, and that's Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette. Now, I said I could see something happening as soon as the first week of January. If this continues to go this way and these players continue to wait out this market, at what point do the Blue Jays start to panic and start to realize the season is afoot here and maybe neither of these guys have pulled a trigger on a team yet? At what point do you think that panic starts to set in?
I think the panic sets in as soon as one of them goes off the board, obviously. I think as long as that is before February, you're not really panicking if everyone's still available. You're waiting on kind of their markets. You're waiting on them to make a move as well. You have a certain number you have out there, whether it's 200 to 400 million, don't really care what the number is. But you have a set number that you're not necessarily going to go over unless you have to, unless your hand is forced by another signing, by another GM, by another agent, whatever it may be. But I think as soon as, say, if Kyle Tucker's signed tomorrow, then I think as soon as that happens, you have a lot more concern about Bichette, about Alex Bregman. And then at this point, if you somehow miss out on all three of them, I think they really go gung-ho and they go all in on that Ketel Marte, on a different trade option. Because like we said, there isn't just a free agent that's going to replicate what either of those three are going to do. So if there is an event where they do miss out on all those three free agents, I think they're really going to go hard and explore the trade market, try to get that big fish that way. Unfortunately, you have to give up in-house assets, whether it's prospects, maybe some MLB talent as well. Addison Barger's been a big guy. And if you're going to get that needle mover, if you're going to get a guy like Ketel Marte, Addison Barger probably going to be right in the middle of one of those transactions. So I think you're just playing with a lot of fire, but I don't think you are really, on the hot seat until one of those guys is signed. If you get to February and somehow all three of them aren't signed, you still have to worry about that because we know about how much spring training matters in a lot of these guys' seasons, and just getting those reps in, those mental reps, and just kind of getting back to the everyday vibe and feel of baseball is very important for these guys. So I think you do start to panic a little bit as well if you get to February, but definitely not as much if a few of these guys start popping off the board.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and we're having some fun. It's Christmas Eve. I'm going to throw a little hypothetical at you here. For one, who do you think the Blue Jays get out of these three guys if you had to pick right now, just based on everything you know? And number two, when do you think they'll sign?
I think it's the exact order that we have it in. I think it's plan A, plan B, plan C. I think those are the odds right now. I think it is Kyle Tucker. I think it is Bichette. And I do not have the Toronto Blue Jays getting Alex Bregman. I just don't think it's really going to happen. I think that's the guy, again, you would need just in terms of the tiers, but I don't think they're going to make something work, especially with Scott Boras being his agent and just what the contract may have to end up looking like. In terms of when these guys are going to sign, that's really hard to predict. We kind of had a feeling that with the big fish, it was going to take a little bit longer. And when I think what I will say is if Bichette signs, I think Kyle Tucker won't be far behind him. And Kyle Tucker, if he signs, Bichette won't be much farther behind him. If I have to put a time on it, I'll put middle January. I don't really think that these two want to wait. I do think they get it done after New Year's. I'm really hoping it's not from the 2nd to the 9th because we will not be even in the country, so that will be a little bit tough for us. But if we do end up missing it and, they do get a signing early January, I'm definitely not going to be opposed to lining a star like Kyle Tucker or Bichette.
Yeah, and like Carter mentioned, we are gone from the 2nd to the 9th. We will still have shows. They're still going to be coming out. We've got a plan in place. So it's all good. And if there is a signing, we're going to try to do our darndest to get it to you guys and do something with it. But yeah, we will hopefully be on a resort on the beach and chilling out. So we'll see what happens. It may be fun. We might be doing a 8 a.m., 2 beers in us already and sitting on the beach, Carter. Wouldn't that be a fun little way to celebrate a Blue Jays signing?
Yeah, imagine celebrating Kyle Tucker just on, the white beaches and plus 30 rather than, right now how it is at the minus 25 and the wind cutting through you like a knife as well. So, yeah, I think I can think of worse ways to celebrate a massive signing like that. One of the bigger ones in Toronto Blue Jays history.
Yeah, exactly. As always, Merry Christmas Eve, whatever. Have a great holiday. Spend some time with your family. Talk some Blue Jays. See what they're thinking. And then report back to us. We want to see what everybody else feels like, too. I know Carter's sitting around, our kitchen table having a holiday dinner. It will be a topic of conversation, as it always is, as my Nana is a Yankees fan. So I'm sure she'll have something to say on the team. And then my mom will say something because she's a Blue Jays fan. And, there might be, it's classic holiday bickering. It's got to happen. And if it's over baseball, that's not the worst case scenario. So have a great holiday season, everybody. We'll be back with you on Friday. Then again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as always, until about February. So take it easy. Have a good one. Don't eat too much. Don't drink too much. Don't drink and drive. I don't know, anything else, Carter? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, I'll throw one more thing in there. Don't let your uncle, your grandpa, you're probably going to be talking Jays at the Christmas table. Don't let them say that, oh, Dylan Cease has a 4.5 ERA, so he's not a good pitcher. Don't let them do that. Don't let them have that old, the old head take. The only ERA matters. Just say, no, that's not true. Just look at the strikeout rates. Then bring up the baseball savant and maybe, have a big argument at the Christmas table about how the Toronto Blue Jays are going to prosper in the next few years. Thank you guys for watching. Merry Christmas, and we will be back with you guys on Boxing Day.